nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I would like to say hello to Mrs. Farrow, Mrs. Cleary, who gave me an extension on my homework for being here tonight, Mrs. Coletta, Mrs. Burgess, and Ms. Stevenson, all of my these are my current teachers. Okay, so today we had a texting and driving assembly. It was moving and helpful for the students who attended. Sports have started, the winter sports, and it's great to see them after school just running down the hallways. Tomorrow is the USO blood drive from 2 to 8, so if you can come between 2 and 8 to donate blood, we're trying to increase the amount that we've had from last year and all years before this. Please come to that. It's in the library. This weekend is Area All-State, which is the music. Our students often participate with that. And then Friday night, we have a lead show, and I don't think I've ever mentioned one of those up here, but it's a music show with student performers from our high school, and it's $5 to attend, and it's in the Suffern Community Center. That's for high schoolers, though. That's at 8 p.m. So in terms of Thanksgiving, several clubs have begun doing things for that. I'd like to pinpoint the National Art Honor Society. We're going to be doing a window painting activity, so it will be like themed for Thanksgiving on the windows and the ramp. And the last thing is that the English Honor Society has recently become the National English Honor Society, which is really exciting. So thank you so much, and I will be staying for a while.
Okay, we do have a lead, Rachel at number 2, and not necessarily a second. Thank you. You can, or you can just, whatever you like.
I'm from All Souls Community Church in Suffern. We're a new church. We've been around for about a year. And we just wanted to extend gratitude to the board with just a letter and a token of thanks. So I'm just going to tell back to them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you. All right, okay, we have the minutes of the regular meeting of November 2nd, November 3rd, 2015. Minutes as so stated. Ms. Stanley, second.
Second.
Mr. Long, any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. We have superintendent's comments, 1.09.
I will defer to President Schauer.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody, to our board meeting of this day. I'd just like to take this opportunity to give us a short or brief update regarding the status of the Renfrew teachers' contract negotiations. On November 10th, the negotiating teams met for the first time with a Public Employment Relations Board appointed mediator, PERB mediator, who the parties had mutually requested. His name is Phil Mayer. He's formerly the Assistant Director of Conciliation for PERB. At the bargaining session, the negotiating teams made great progress toward settlement and continued with what I can only characterize as their good faith and diligent efforts to negotiate a new agreement. With the mediator's assistance, the parties have narrowed the area of disagreement to 3 subjects, and when they meet again on November 24th, it is hoped that a settlement will be achieved. We had all expected to be at this point long ago. However, due to a delay in PERB appointing the mediator several months ago, and the death of the mediators, once appointed, the death of someone in the mediator's family, which caused cancellation of the first mediation, which was to take place in mid-September. Mediation was then postponed until last Tuesday. The Board of Education is committed with working with the Teachers Association and achieving a new agreement. We know the RTA is equally committed, and by continuing to work together, and we look forward to resolving the remaining 3 issues when the 2 teams meet again, like I said, November 24th, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And we hope at that time that we will make even greater progress and possibly settle. Just wanted to put that out there. This is the first time that we've had a mediation since the process started. And that is all for my comments. Thank you, sir, for your time. Do you have any further comments on that? Okay, public participation. This is public participation on action items only. This portion of the meeting will last no longer than 30 minutes. It's with respect to the items that are listed up high behind me. That's 2.01 through 2. I believe it's 1.2. If you would like to speak with regard to any of those items, please approach the podium, state your name, school affiliation, address or village. I don't think it's your full address, that it's private. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. This will only be no longer than 30 minutes, so that really only leaves 10 people if they should take 3 minutes to discuss anything. Address your remarks to the board president. There's a lot of new faces in here, which is great to see. I just want to clarify that these board meetings, they're business meetings held in public. It's not necessarily a public meeting where there's dialogue back and forth. We do listen to what you're saying. We do hear what you're saying, but we won't have a dialogue back and forth in this venue. I ask that you, if you would, though, if you would leave some contact information, whether it's an email address, preferably, or some other way to get in touch with you, so we can at least refer your comments to the appropriate parties to be dealt with within the district, or for that matter, respond ourselves to the comments. Any comments for action items over 2.01 to 2.12? Okay. Okay, so I will close that portion of the meeting. All right, we have action items. I believe we will, Marlene, correct me if I'm wrong, we will hold 2.06. Okay. Is there anything else that needs to be pulled? Otherwise, I would like to use the consent agenda with respect to those items. Okay. Then Chair would entertain a motion to accept the items 2.01 through 2.12, excluding 2.06. Chair would entertain a motion to accept those as so stated. That would be Mr. Long. Second? Ms. Monahan? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, then now with respect to 2.06, Chair would entertain a motion to accept 2.06 as so stated. Mr. Osborne, all right, hold on. Ms. Monahan? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None. Abstentions?
I abstain.
1 abstention. That is. Okay, thank you. Okay, I believe we do not have discussion items on the agenda for today. We do have administrative reports. And I believe first up will be Mrs. Russ. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good evening. It's my pleasure to speak on behalf of Viola Elementary. I'm a definitely proud principal of the work that we've been doing. This is our 3rd year of our CSIP, and our school improvement team has grown, and we are refining and redefining our work and our CSIP plan. This plan is not my plan alone. This is a plan that I am leading, but without my staff and my team supporting it, it would not be the presentation that you see tonight. I'd first like to just thank and introduce my team. Jackie Budner, my K2 literacy specialist. Camille Bennett, my 3-5 literacy specialist. Rob Zink, my math specialist. Linda Hammond, our instructional facilitator. Melanie O'Keefe, our school psychologist. Liz Ralston, our special educator. And Jamie Hag, our tech supporter. She's going to click for me tonight. She's got the toughest job. Why a pencil? When a school sees accountability as a shared commitment, the beliefs and behaviors of all the parties tend to shift in a positive direction. Suspicion tends to dissipate, trust grows, communication begins focusing on what will be necessary for success, and less on mistakes and shortcomings. Everyone starts to see the importance of working together, supporting each other, and encouraging each other's efforts. This describes the work of my team and the work at Viola School. Why a pencil? We must remember that many students and/or teachers simply can't be receptive to new learning if fear is dominant, and a person can't grow without making mistakes. It's impossible. The objective of every learner is to focus on what can be learned from a mistake. The goal is to learn how to improve from every misstep. At Viola, the staff have discussed with me many times that students are afraid to make mistakes, ultimately afraid to be risk takers. They're concerned how others will see them in the class if they are wrong. Tonight, I will be highlighting how we are creating a culture for critical thinking and lifelong learning, creating a healthy and safe learning environment, creating responsible citizens, creating leaders and problem solvers, and creating students who are empowered to be self-directed. I'm proud to begin with Viola achieves improved attendance. We have to get students to school, or we have no place for them to go and learn. This year, I'm very proud to say, with the efforts of Melanie O'Keefe, my staff, and myself, calling up parents, speaking to students, and making direct contact with families to find out what the reasons were behind attendance, we decreased our overall absenteeism by 2.2%. Viola achieves health and wellness. Every morning we start with yoga time and the Viola stretch. We also have our first grade students are our yoga instructors, and they make sure that all of our students are following and doing what we ask them to do as far as exercise. Many of our students who are older will come and let me know if they missed the exercise or did someone forget this morning. So again, they're keeping us on track to make sure, because they know how important health and exercise is. We have moved to completely healthy celebrations. We have no food. We do activities, books, crafts, and any other ideas that either staff or parents might have that will continue to help us remind students that it's important to be healthy. We also don't reward with any kind of food. When I grew up, that's what we did. We rewarded with food. I realize now, as an adult, it's hard to break those habits. So as a principal, I really like to create a school where students can be healthy and learn that there are other ways to celebrate. This year, we're moving towards creating a garden in collaboration with our PTA and the Cooperative Extension. And we're very proud to hopefully bring you back pictures of our real garden next year. Last year, we participated in a trial from something that I did as part of BOCES professional development on a 5-star program. This 5-star program taught students how they could self-regulate themselves by either creating a take-a-break center, and our older students who participated in 4th and 5th grade created centers that had certain things in them, such as things that are colorful, things that are certain colors, textures, things that they might want to look at that would make them feel better, instead of leaving the classroom and losing instructional time. These centers allow them to stay in the classroom learning and listening and not leaving the classroom during that time. We also connected movement and memory, and I would show you the movement and memory, but I'm not so good at these cross-brain activities. Many of the teachers who participated learned how to show children how to tap from one foot to the other and cross each front of them, and their cross-brain thinking as they did math facts or learning certain instructional facts that they were working on. students began to ask for us to make sure that we were doing it again this year. And Mrs. Levine came to me and said, my students want to have it again, and from working in Mrs. Fourth Grade Shedler's room. So this year we will continue that work, and I'm proud to say that it's from our students who had asked for it. PTA helped us create problem solvers, responsible citizens, leaders by collaborating with Viola staff. This year, during the month of October, we always celebrate Red Ribbon with my gym teachers, Mike Drab and Brian Goddard at the lead. And they organize activities that promote team building, respect for our bodies, and take care of your healthy body decisions, and feel good about yourself and confident enough to say no to drugs. This year, the PTA supported that by helping support a program called Simon Says with Steve Max. He talked about making good choices, showing respect, and be confident in who you are. They did a really cool project this year where we created a school song based off of themes at each grade level. The themes consisted of maybe kindergarten meaning friendship, caring, support, words that sparkle in our third grade, how to say those words and not hurt someone's feelings and make someone feel like their day or something about them is sparkly. In the next second, we're going to click on it and you'll see a little excerpt from the song that they created. So thanks to our PTA, kindness is cool at Viola. These are pictures of our student council hard at work improving the daily lives and the learning environment for all students at Viola. I'm going to show you, under the direction of Julie Len, Christine Kier, Nicola Sapien, and Vanessa Mancuso as teacher leaders, a website that was created by students alone. On this website, they have an anti-bullying program where it's called Be the One program. It was based on the book Be the One. If you click on this website, and we're not going to do it tonight, you can see all the pages of the book and see how they use this book to help our younger grade level students to learn about how they could be the one. Based on this, students would see that students who could be the ones who could stand up for them, the ones who could be their friends, the ones who could be caring, the ones who could help them when they had a problem, would be given a bracelet that said Be the One. And then they would be able to recognize those students and know that those are the students they could count on for help no matter where they were at Viola. Along on this website, you'll also see there's a thing called Viola Moves. And this is, again, the idea that our students are realizing how important it is to, in order for us to attend to tasks, we also need to have some movement breaks. And so if you scroll down, you see that there are Viola brain breaks, which give ideas to teachers about how they can click on them. They don't need to go find them. Our students found them for them. And that they can click on, and some of them are only 1 minute long, some are seconds long, where kids can get up and just take a little break from what they're learning. And again, it's great because our students created this all by themselves. Our student council will be very happy to hear how appreciative you are of the work that they've done. And like I said, as you see as I go through these slides, one of the major things that Viola achieves is leadership among our students. Last year, we talked about with students the kinds of leadership that they wanted the school to have, what kinds of things do we already have that are in place. One of them in the bottom picture is our 5th grade kindergarten buddies, where 5th graders go down into the kindergarten and work and help our students. Our other picture is a picture of a student being our safety patrol, who reminds students to walk and be safe in the hallways. And then a new initiative was to look at a leader that we all know from grades K to 5, and that was Martin Luther King. All of the teachers discussed the idea of what are the kinds of leadership attributes that Martin Luther King shows us. And we asked them to just pick whatever one they thought would be the best, that they thought their grade level would want to represent. And interestingly enough, I was shocked that nobody repeated one. So I didn't have to worry about how to toggle between which grade level would get which attributes. So kindergarten picked empathy, grade 1 picked perseverance, grade 2 picked creativity, grade determination, grade 4 picked grit, and grade 5 picked integrity. Each of the teachers throughout the year focused on lessons. They might have done writing. Our 5th grade did writing around integrity. So every grade did different projects, different kinds of writing, and tied it to the theme. In grade 1, they actually came up with a song. It went along with Peter Pan, and I'm not singing it tonight. But it went along that, about how they have perseverance, and they sing it to themselves as they are working. So it keeps them to understand and know that they are persevering when they are working on a task. Our students aren't the only learners at Viola. Our Viola staff are learners too. This summer, during an administrative retreat, Lee Weber shared a book called Visible Learning for Teachers by John Hattie. When I first read it, I was like, I don't know, the first 2 chapters didn't really hook me in that much, but there's something about chapter 3 that started me to really look at what this author had to say after my 9 years of being a principal. It talked about learning being visible to teachers and teaching being visible to students. We talked about experienced teachers versus expert teachers and the idea of the modules. Did it matter if you're teaching 20 years? If you had a new module, maybe being experienced and expert can mean different things. Being passionate. So we talked about the fact that the book really talks about also know thy impact. It says it several times over and over. It has been a positive experience. We started with a book club, I think, of about maybe 8 to 10. Then it started growing to 14 to 15, and we are now at 18. And the last time Lisa Castaldo Green, who joined us as a district administrator, said there isn't even a seat for me anymore. So honestly, Taryn Rivera joined us, and I know Steve Walker has said that he'd like to come. He's hearing all this buzz about it. So we are really thankful for Lee sharing this book. And hopefully as we read it, we'll use some of the information, continue to make the progress that we can to improve our instructional practice. This year also, I was very interested in looking at student work. I know we've always looked at student work. I've done some work when I was in the middle school at looking at protocols. And I took a few staff with me to a professional development session that looked at different protocols we could actually use. So while we brought back a couple, we chose one. And if you watch this video that I'm about to show you a small clip, you will see a phys ed teacher, you'll see a music teacher, my reading specialist, and different grade level staff looking at student work. You're actually only going to hear one teacher who's basically talking about the work, but the entire table takes turns going around in the protocol until we can figure out how we might improve our instruction or improve the actual work by coming up with strategies for that teacher to take back. The positive feedback that's happened around this process has been just outstanding. The other processes that I wanted to use to improve my own growth was how every time you go into a classroom as an administrator to look at teacher observations with a new eye, and also to have teachers share how this process has helped them to reflect and revise on their own instructional practices. For the past 2 years in this process, I used question and discussion techniques as a major focus, especially with Common Core. But this year I switched to not just focusing on question and discussion, but talking to my staff about designing and assessing student learning and providing feedback to students. As part of that process, I asked teachers to share a little bit with me about what this process has helped them to achieve and helped them to feel if it was any benefit for them as they looked at this process. When we discussed my lesson at the pre-observation, I left with some very thoughtful suggestions. I decided to create a rubric that would have students self-assess herself, but then a strategy checklist that the student could use to actually monitor how often she practices this strategy. Our discussion at my post-observation helped me to find a way to incorporate this individualized strategy checklist for all my students. I am glad I took a chance on trying something new in this lesson because the feedback received will help me to grow and strengthen in my daily lessons. My phys ed teachers, I think your suggestion on having kids take some part in the teaching and explain some of the stations or skills themselves is something that we will continue to use in the future. A special educator, I was happy you chose assessment to focus on this year for our observation. I found it helpful this year to have the special needs students create their own rubrics in their own wording to help them to assess their work. Having them create the rubric helped the children with writing their 2-point responses, as they knew what to include for full credit. This helps students to transfer out their expectations into their classwork. I also look forward to having students create and develop their own questions. Viola achieves that when we read and we discuss and we integrate research-based strategies, we are able to improve our instruction and ultimately student learning. This year, I talked a lot with staff about the fact that we receive so many articles via email, or I send things to them, or they subscribe to their own journals. And they're often long articles, and we don't always get to read them all the way through as much as we'd like to. So I subscribe to something called the Master Teacher. It is one handout that's only 1 page long, and I put them in the green folders for each of the board members. Some samples of topics we talked about this year: taking the fear out of making mistakes, learning the difference between climate and culture and supporting it, accountability is a one-way street, it's not a one-way street, a blueprint for creating better learners, and the good struggle, creating positive thinking. Here is an example of some of the positive thinking that teachers were able to create charts with students. So an example would be, this is too hard, and students would come up with the wording that said, this may take some time and a little more effort. Or they might be saying to themselves, it's not good enough. And they would say, it's good enough. And they would say, is it my best work? For the past 2 years, I talked about teacher leadership as being the framework and the momentum behind moving any school improvement forward at Viola. This year, I took a survey out of a book called Awakening the Sleeping Giant, Helping Teachers to Develop as Leaders. Based on the information of the survey, it said what we feel we are doing well. We're promoting a positive environment in the classroom, using research-based instructional practices, and sharing best practices with colleagues. What the survey showed we wanted to continue to improve was school culture, accomplishing our mission, and participation in working towards school improvement. Each of these areas rated on a 1 to 5, fall about in a 3. We're in our 3rd year of our CSIP, and any good change according to the research, to know that you have it, takes 3 to 5 years. So I think my staff were pretty accurate in answering these questions. K2 literacy. A couple of weeks ago, I went to an Apple professional development session, and they talked about the fact that if we wanted to talk about our school, the best way would be to talk about the why, the what, and the how. But often in education, we tell the what and the how, and we don't inspire the passion of why. This year, I really wanted to encourage the team to really be looking at the why, and to make sure that we were passionate enough to know what strategies that we wanted, and that to make sure that we were passionate enough that we wanted every student to succeed. What would those be? In K2, it was deeper analysis of student assessment, individualized phonics instruction, sight words, letters, and sound intervention, and a linear scope and sequence for literacy. Our goal was to increase K2 overall DRA2 exit benchmark to 70%. The how. We added a comprehension component. all students on the DRA level of 3, end of kindergarten benchmark, because there is no comprehension assessed at this level. We created a professional learning committee where they focus on data analysis of Lexia Core 5. We improved our collaboration looking at student work, as I showed you and looking before at our video. But they also wanted to focus on writing instruction, assessments, the fidelity of our new Reading Street program that we put into place last year, and the resources that we use to support that instruction. We looked at creating a multi-sensory and sounds and motion intervention. It's collaboration with our literacy specialists, our speech pathologists, and our literacy aid for targeted students who need intervention on sight words and letter sounds. I have to thank the board and the district for giving us back our literacy specialist. This work wouldn't be possible without her. We now have a way of having 3 different people working with students across the week to ensure that those students are carrying out and learning those strategies. This summer, Viola participated in our summer working for linear scope and sequence. Our K-2 phonics alignment within Reading Street, we felt needed some more support. So they came together and focused on the skills that were missing, created additional supplemental activities, as well as background support in phonics for instruction for staff who might have moved a grade and needed some more help in their phonics instruction. ELA in grades 3-5. Last year in 2014-15, we did achieve our goal. Last year, our combined proficiency across New York State assessments in English language arts was to hit 6% increase, and we did make that target. Literacy grades 3-5, our why, our needs assessment, informational text, academic vocabulary, writing, and literature were the areas that we discussed by drilling down into the data. Our goal is to increase our mean writ math in grades 1-5 by 8 to 10 points. We are the only school in the district who do the NWA in grade 1, and we will be going down to grade K this year in the spring. Our goal is 3% proficiency on all New York State assessments. The how. Achieve 3000. This was a program, once again, I have to thank the district. 2 years ago when we started our CSIP, it was something that I saw in Suffolk Middle School. It was something I saw what my own daughter used as a student in Clarkstown. I was really convinced that at the elementary level it could make a difference. Because of Achieve, 100% of our students are practicing key reading strategies, main idea, and text structures. Our mean lexile growth in grades 2-5 was 114.5. We developed focused reading groups, differentiated groups across the entire grade level, targeting skill areas identified by the data that we used to drill down to find out very specific strategies that the students needed to have. We're focusing on academic vocabulary study. Those students who've come to 3rd grade still lacking phonics, we now have Core 5. And last year, thanks to my reading specialist, Camille Bennett, she talked to us about creating portfolios and how this was the way that we should go. And so we did. And I have a student who wanted to share her portfolio and tell you about it instead of me.
And what are these activities? These activities are for your goals. And do you pick them yourself? Yes, you can pick them yourself. From like what you have right here, what you want to work on for your goals. And you'll do that, and you write them down here, and there's some on the back. And how do you pick the activities that you are working on? So you pick your activities, like what do you think that would help you with your goals the most? Can you give me an example of one of your activities? Like, I'm doing race Very good. Do you feel like it's helping you? Yeah. Why? Why is it helping you? It's helping me put more details in it because my writing is not good when I don't have like races and stuff, and it really helps me a lot with that and everything. I have that format. Yeah. Do you feel like the way that the IE block is going, do you feel like it's working well? Yeah, it's helping me with my goals. I've already achieved one of my math goals, and now I'm going to try to achieve like one of them. Thank you, Riley.
She should be proud of her work, and so should our fourth grade team, who have really led our building and starting this work and extending it out to other grade levels. Another area where we started to add some more work is our writing groups. Under the direction of Mrs. Hammond, she has taken some of the reading target skills that we're working on in our reading groups and created writing extensions that focus on inquiry writing. And so an example might be writing to the director of Hayden Planetarium to see how he uses the theories of Galileo in his presentations. And one of the last ones I want to talk to you about is Read 180. Thanks again to our PPS department and Lisa Castaldo Green, who helped us to get Read 180 2 years ago, and we are now beginning our third year of its use. We have graduated students for the first time out of Read 180. We also are able to add more targeted students than we were ever able to add before. Have we reached our goal that we set? We absolutely did. 64% of our fifth graders met or exceeded projected growth, and 80% of our fourth graders met or exceeded their projected growth. And again, I have to compliment Liz Whitty-Ralston because she took the leadership in figuring out how to do this, and it now has been training other teachers in this program as well. Mathematics. In grades 3 through 5, we achieved our goal. Last year we said that we were going to make a 5% gain, and our students did do that. In grades 1 through 5, students met or exceeded our projected math growth. And for 3 consecutive years at Viola Elementary, we have demonstrated growth on our New York State math assessment, and 65% proficiency on our grades 3 through 5, with a 77% proficiency for regular education students. The why in our needs assessment for math is number sense and measurement and data. Our goal is to outscore the region on targeted standards, to put positive growth on our common assessments. And if we click the what, you'll be able to see that the diamond area shows the target, and that as we made our growth to be able to exceed or meet our expected goals. So our goal to increase our mean writ math in grades 1 through 5 by 10 to 12 points, and a positive 3% per grade on the New York State assessment. In math, we have many different areas that we're working on as well, and portfolios do connect to math. But one of the most important things I do want to show you is our peer-to-peer teaching, where students actually created their own videos to be able to show the students how to look at their reports and how to use that to guide their goals. They also went down into younger grade levels to actually show
reports with Emily Hafter, Callie Draft, Lexi Edelman, and Alexa Kukishi. Hope you enjoy! Then as students and parents use ISL reports. ISL is real helpful too. There's so much information in the report that can help you become a good math assistant. First, you log on to ISL using your username and password. If you don't know your username and password, please ask your teacher. When you are logged on, press the Reports button. You look on Status Update and it says Overview. So I have been on for 6 hours and 0 minutes in January. Based on my time spent, the green is the most time I spent on and is adding and subtracting fractions.
What information does it give you down below? How do you know how much time you've practiced on a certain skill, or if you've mastered it?
It says, so then you can scroll down and you can look on what skill it is, the time spent trouble spot. So when you see here that 50 minutes, that means that it is a trouble spot. So you really want to work on that again and try to improve. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.
Isn't that so much better than listening to me? And teachers, you can see you have your future teachers coming right up, coming ready to teach math. One of the interesting things that we're also going to work on this year is definitely working on creating measurement integrated across content areas. We already began meeting with our special area teachers, like our art teacher who does sculpture, and she said she could work on teaching volume at that time. We have our gym teachers who work on collecting data all the time about their pulse and about pedometers, how many steps they walk, and they do a map across social studies and they count how many steps they had and what state will they be in if they walk that many steps. So we're going to continue to extend that this year and try to find as many ways as possible to help along with our goal around measurement and being able to use data. There is one quick, and I'm just going to show you the portfolios because Mrs. Lent shares a little bit about how they use it to create their own student reflections based on progress reports that go home. The students write their own progress reports.
Hi, I'm Julie Lent from Viola. I'm representing the 14th team, who also includes Roseanne Shedler and Christine here. We've been working with the students for 2 years now on portfolios, and we've come a long way with having it student-directed based on their goals that the kids are coming up with for themselves, their needs, and their strengths and weaknesses, and they take full control of their portfolio. So one of the things that is an improvement from last year is that Christine here came up with a wonderful idea for the students to really take control of their IE block. So they have set goals for themselves that they would like to accomplish within the next trimester. Based on those goals, they set up their own centers to help them reach those goals. And we have given them ways to record their data so that they're able to really show in their goal section of their portfolio, they're really able to show their reflection on whether they've reached their goal or not. So as you can see here, in the beginning, we had asked them to set a goal for writing, we had asked them to set a goal for math and for reading as well. And based on those goals, they picked centers to work on in the IE block. And after the first month, we have met with them to see if they have reached their goals. This is just a way for them to keep track of their evidence. And then we've met with them to see, have you, well, they've filled this out first, their goal reflection, and have they met their goal, yes or no, and what? So it's really based on how the students feel about themselves, and they're actually looking at their work that we have been keeping in this portfolio to really show them the evidence of whether they're reaching it or not. And then the second thing that we've worked on this year is we really, again, want to be student-directed. So we're working on student with progress reflections. So every student in the class has filled out whether they feel from themselves, based on looking in their portfolios, based on how they feel about themselves as a student, whether they've met the expectation that was expected of them this trimester so far, if they haven't, what they need to improve on, and then we let them put it in the middle if they feel like they're halfway. And then on the back, we really have them write a biography about themselves, about how they feel about their behavior in class, their academics in class, based on, again, the portfolio work and how they feel as a student. So one of the student comments I just want to share with you is from Mr. Shedler's class. And this student wrote, I need a little help in division. For example, I got 74 out of 100. I would always trust you, Mrs. Shedler. I can always trust you. Another thing is tape diagrams. I always mess up on it. I do not know what I'm doing. Sometimes it does not make sense to me when I read a book alone. I do not get anything when I read it alone and I don't understand it. I need help with it. I also have to start listening to Mrs. Shedler. Sometimes I get stressed. Now my focus is on me. So again, this came all from the student. It's most valuable when it comes from the student. And again, reflecting on their portfolio, reflecting on themselves, and we're getting really true value out of this portfolio work in every aspect of the kids' education and behavior.
In order for this kind of learning to take place, we had to make improvements in how our social and emotional learning and our positive student behaviors. This goal we achieved. We were pretty impressed to report that in the target for 2014-15, we wanted to have a 25% reduction, 80 or fewer referrals. Total referrals logged in 2014-15 was 62. We had a 40% reduction in referrals. I believe this has to do with the fact that students are now taking more ownership and also learning how to handle with their own conflicts. Last year I talked about how we did rock, paper, scissors. Again, our students are creating their own videos. The student council, the girls, also created their own. I don't know why they separated boy and girl, but they created their own video to show bullying and things that might happen at lunchtime. As lunch and recess are our biggest area still. Over 50% of our referrals are coming out of lunch and recess.
Indoor recess, and the girls are getting ready to play a game. Hi, lunch time. Keep the tree to back way. Hurry up, girls. Hi, ladies. Over this. However, you're ready. I have enough people to keep. I don't mind. I can move the very side. Well, that's kind of nice hour. That's not long enough. You don't think that you don't want to be a person. And you just look at the results. I'll be ready to get ready for you. You're kind of annoying, and you don't want to hang out with them. Why do we have to keep telling you over and over? Get the point. I'm gonna do Thursday.
So your middle school teachers will recognize those students. They're up in 6th grade right now, so they know how to be the one. The why is so important here. What really matters for success, character and happiness, and lifelong learning achievements is a definite set of emotional skills. Our goal is to decrease discipline referrals by 20%. Of course, we know that behavior is fluid, and it is an elementary school. There are always going to be some level of learning and some level of behavior. But we continue our practice respect and accept responsibilities, work together in our safety matters as our pause program and our matrix across all settings. And we will continue to use our Walk, Talk, Rock program that we began last year, because students are more and more settling their own conflicts and not looking for adults to solve them. So hopefully next year we'll be able to report a better number in our recess and lunch. So to take you into a world of our student inquiry and exploration that are outside our classrooms, Viola Elementary strives to educate all students to be self-directed, critical thinkers, problem solvers, responsible citizens, leaders, and lifelong learners. How do we do this outside our classroom? We have collaboration with our Eagle Scouts to develop the design of the Viola School Nature Center, a collaboration with Lamont Doherty and our 5th grade environmental studies at Kakiak Park. Our 1st grade plant engineers are connecting with specialty engineers, local, statewide, Boston Museum of Science, and the University of Rochester. Our Avon Research and Developmental Center comes and helps students in grade 5 with mixtures and solutions. Students wrote to Supreme Court Judge Sotomayor, and she wrote back to the students. Mayor Oppenheim has come and shown active citizenship in our community. We've written letters to authors to share our thoughts and ideas. Mo Math in New York City, students initiated ideas that were part of the new exhibits in the museum. Participation in Rockland County's annual Science, Interventions, and Technology exhibit. Like-minded Peers, a collaboration with the 1st grade classes in Albany, New York. Stack's Literacy Celebration for writers in the elementary grades. TerraCycle program on composting with lunch waste. In collaboration with Cornell Cooperative Extension, Rockland County Health Coalition Showcase was one of the other things that we worked on doing. We're looking forward to trying to get a bronze medal with the Health Coalition with our health and safety and wellness program. And last but not least, the students created a mural in our foyer last year. PTA, parents, teachers, and staff and community collaborated to support our students' vision to be the difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess what I have is more of a comment rather than a question. First, congratulations on meeting your goals for the last 3 years. That's pretty impressive. But what has struck me from this presentation is that you've really kind of put the fun back into learning by letting kids be a little bit more creative, giving teachers the ownership as well as the students the ownership. And I think that holistic approach is, do you think that's probably one of the reasons why you've been so successful in meeting your benchmarks?
I think it's definitely been the best approach, and I think it is definitely the reason. I think when students feel that they can be responsible and self-directed, they take much more enjoyment, much more involvement in their learning, and it is teachers being risk takers, giving up that control. As part of our book club, it talks about the 7 C's, and one of them is control. And some of the teachers in the book club gave the survey to their staff, and one of the teachers came back and said, one of the things they said is that I'm too controlling. So the idea was that maybe that they're trying to impart too much, where they're teaching and not really letting them have that, ability. So I think we're seeing as more and more students are doing that, they want more of it. They like that idea of being self-directed.
Anybody else? No, I thought you were just in the, oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just to understand a little bit on, let's say, priority ELAs for 14-15, so 58% proficiency, so when the regular education proficiency is 66%, I'm assuming 58%, for example, is because this is a mixed scale group, including special ed students, and hence regular education proficiency does not include special ed students. Am I understanding correctly?
We have students in our self-contained classroom that are off of the mainstream. They have the same curriculum, but they're learning at a slower pace, and those students still are required to take the test, so it includes those students in our self-contained classroom as well as our inclusion students.
So comparing them to regular education.
Right, we do not have an IEP.
So I also want to really commend, as you know, I'm passionate about brain breaks. I think that will definitely improve outcomes in student learning when they get to move and not be stationary all the time in class. I also really want to commend the portfolio system that your reading specialists and staff have adopted, because it really establishes ownership of the student to their, setting goals. First of all, these are skills that are usually learned much older, and then owning up to evaluating themselves and finding out where their weaknesses are and what they need to work on. So just learning those skills at an early, self-criticizing almost, are great skills that are going to be lifelong useful for them. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and I want to thank Dr. Adams and the Board of Education for allowing me to present the Cherry Lane Comprehensive School Improvement Plan for 2015 and 16. Before I get started, I just want to say that this was a fantastic learning experience for me. This year is, as many of you know, this is my first year as principal of Cherry Lane Elementary, and it's going to be a year full of looking, listening, and learning throughout every aspect of our school environment. The information that I'm going to present was built by a team of people. The fantastic conversations I had with our literacy specialists, our math specialists, our school psychologists, and many, many other people that I can't think of right now because I'm a little nervous, so excuse me. So, let me tell you a little bit about Cherry Lane. Cherry Lane is a place where all students are encouraged to strive for academic excellence and to be kind to one another. It is a place where students can take academic risks in a safe, nurturing, and supportive environment. So here's what we look like. Right now, this year, we have 373 students. As you can see, our enrollment is declining over the last 3 years. Our attendance rate is at 96%. It did go down 1% last year, so we're looking at that. That's going to be one of our goals. and our free and reduced lunch has increased. So our demographics are changing. We still have 3% ESL. That's something that has stayed consistent for the last 3 years. We have 2 BOCES classrooms and 5 inclusion classrooms, and that itself fluctuates from year to year. Our priorities are increasing student achievement in literacy, increasing student achievement in math, and improving student behavior and attendance. You're going to have to excuse me, I don't have all the videos that Mrs. Dress has, so I got a pretty tough act to follow. This is, yes. Okay, so for increasing student achievement in literacy, our goals are to increase the 2016 mean writ math in grades 2 through 5 by 8 to 17 points, to increase our combined student proficiency achievement by 4% for our 2016 New York State ELA in grades 3 through 5. How we're going to do that is our teachers have done a lot of work on our EL modules, adapting and modifying. We also have invested a great deal of time over the summer and also through extended day and student and our extended day and superintendent's conference days in regards to embedding our Lucy Calkins, which is a writing program right now that we have embedded that into the modules. We also, like Ms. Dress said, the Reading Street program, we have that as well for our students, Wordly Wise and Achieve 3000. I will tell you that my experience with Achieve 3000 started at the middle school, started at the pilot program for some of our students, and it grew my second year there. My time at Viola, I also saw the success at it, so when I presented that information to our 3, 4, and 5 teachers, they definitely grabbed that opportunity, so we should be starting that in December. We're looking forward to that and seeing how that improves our reading scores moving forward. Another goal for this year is increasing our K2 overall DRA exit benchmark to 72%. Again, it's based on our Reading Street, Lucy Calkins as well. We do have 3 instructional aides that are assisting, especially during our literacy times during our K unit, and we also will continue with the Lexia Core 5 program. For increasing student achievement in math, we're going to increase the 2016 mean writ in grades 2 through 5 by 15 to 23 points, increase our student proficiency by 4% in grades 1 through 5 on the district common assessments. Now that's a little different. Our first grade and our second grade teachers, our students take the proficiency common assessments from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, whereas our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students actually take it in February. So it's more of a unit assessment at that point. Our 3rd goal would be for increasing student achievement by 4% on the New York State math in grades 3 through 5. And we have a variety of different interventions, our IXL math, our Reflex math, our iReady. Our makerspace is actually something we are joining up with Solzberg and going to be trying this year. It's in the developed stages right now. We sent out an email to our teachers, just kind of introducing this to them and giving a PowerPoint presentation on what it might look like, the makerspace, and how that's going to help our student achievement moving forward. We do plan on sending out a survey in the next weeks to come to see what their interests are so we can determine the theme of that particular makerspace. Our Project Lead the Way is well underway, and our teachers also take a particular students in the morning for our Sunrise Scholars, and those students get additional practice in math in the morning before school starts. Our 3rd goal is improving student behavior and attendance. The goals are increasing student recognition for demonstrating good character during lunch and recess by 5% in grades K through 5. Just like Mrs. Dress said, most of our discipline is during unstructured time, and that's hallway, bathroom, lunch, and recess. That's pretty average or norm within every school that you kind of go into, but we're taking a different approach to that. We're looking at ways to kind of do more positive behavior reinforcement. We've established a committee for our PBIS. Every morning, our announcements are, "Good morning, terrific Tigers." They see here that every morning for me, we talk about the different pillar that is responsible for each month. This month is responsibility, so they'll hear a little quote, and also what that may look or sound like in the classroom or at home. Our K2 students are reading "Have You Filled Your Bucket Today" by Carol McLeod, and our 3 to 5 students, very similar to Viola, also one by Karen Atashi. And also within that committee, we are looking at some reflection forms. So not only are our students developing some sort of consequences, but they are also looking at their own behavior and how they can improve it. So within each of the discipline referrals, if you will, teachers are going to have reflection forms that are going to be made available for the classroom, and also whenever they're in my office and we're having those good conversations, they're also going to be thinking about what they could have done differently and some different strategies. So it's supposed to help them think about how they're behaving and how to improve that behavior. It's always a learning opportunity for all of our students. The next goal would be decreasing frequent and chronic absenteeism by 5%. We're going to do that through attendance letters, student recognition, and outreaching to our families. The third goal is to begin to foster a growth mindset philosophy with students and faculty. Like I said, the makerspace also demonstrates that. It really gives the kids ability, if you can do it, if you can make it, you can do it, never give up type thing, because the makerspace itself is a creative approach. You're going in there, you're trying something, it doesn't work, you try it again, and you try it again until you're successful. So that is going to help with facilitating that type of mindset. Also, something different we're doing this year, it's the Google Plus Cherry Lane Book Club. One of those things that we did talk about this summer when we were doing our work with Lee Weber was that book, Visible Learning. When I was having the conversations with some of our faculty and staff, we all lead busy lives. We all have a lot of things going on with our families, and we want to continue our professional development. So we were looking for ways in which to do that. And some of the ways we thought about was creating a Google Plus community and doing a book club in that fashion. So it gives our teachers an opportunity at any time. For me, when I had my 18-month-old, it's at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning. That's my only peace time I have right now. So at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, that's when I'm going to be responding and reading the book. And it gives our teachers an opportunity to kind of do it on their own time, at their own will. And we actually just got the books in. I'm happy to say we have 26 faculty members that are participating in the book club, and I'm really, really happy about that. And I did order, so those of you out there, I did order a few more books. If you decide to join us, just let me know. Okay. So just some highlights, some hallmarks of Cherry Lane Cultural Arts. I really have to thank our fabulous PTA. They work so well with our teachers and our staff, and they look at our curriculum and exactly what we're doing in each grade level, and they try to tailor the cultural arts program according to what we are already doing in the classroom in order to enhance that. So Laura Valvo, who is part of our PTA, she has set up the cultural arts program, and I have to say this is set up at the beginning of the summer for the entire year. It's already ready to roll. She's done a fantastic job. So if you look right there, we have, thanks to our third grade teachers, the Jambo Pro with Mr. Mike Harold. He does the community as the world. And I will tell you that our third grade teachers set this up on their own. In fact, one of the questions they asked me after they set it up, so I do appreciate that, was who's supposed to set up the assemblies in secular? I said, that would be me, but so thank you for doing that. So that's one of the things that we are working on as far as setting up the assemblies and making sure that everything runs smoothly, but that ran fantastically. We also had author James Arnowski already in, and then on the bottom right is our Dinosaur Rocks, and I gotta tell you, that definitely rocked. It was a great program and a great show. Some additional things. We have our Cherry Lane, they call them Cherry Langels. I thought that was so great because it shows a lot of community spirit within Cherry Lane itself, not just from our families, but our kids really get into it. Our third graders for October collected 877 pairs of socks. They called it Socktober. And they did such a fantastic job. It was so impressive. They participated in the fun run. And then in the top left corner right there, I know it's hard to see a little bit, but there was 520 bags they collected for the clothing drive for New York. So, I mean, that's just a piece of what our kids do. I want to thank the Tallman Fire Department for coming in and just sharing with our kindergartners. And we started this year the Adopt a Cop program. So our third graders are also participating in that. And if you see the middle one, we all dressed up in Halloween costumes this year. We were very excited about that. And I just wanted to highlight some of the Cherry Lane tweets. If you are not following us on Twitter, do so. It really highlights a lot of the activities and things that are happening in our schools, and I'm very proud of them. We have about 4 or 5 teachers right now that have a Twitter feed and Twitter page, and then I usually retweet those so that it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in the classroom environments as well. If you don't, on all seriousness, if you don't have a Twitter account, of course that's okay, we understand. But go onto the website because it has the Twitter feed itself and allows us to show and demonstrate what's going on at our schools. So I want to thank everybody again for allowing me to present this evening.
As we did last year, we are strongly encouraging parents to access the elementary report cards through the parent portal. We have a letter prepared to go home that will go home in the near future. It will go home as a hard copy in the children's physical backpack, not the electronic backpack. And it's in English and Spanish and just talks about this is the second year of the new standards-based report card, and also strongly encourages folks to access it electronically. There's some instructions and a link to a website where they can do that. There's also a note on there how to request a paper copy. There's 2 different ways they can request a paper copy. One is by sending an email. The other is just by turning in a note to their building. And we'll also send out a Connect Ed the week before. And one of the great things about the elementary school is we know ultimately that every parent will get the report card, because if they haven't asked for a paper report card and they haven't accessed it electronically at their parent-teacher conference, there will be one available for them to see. So we have that measure sort of that we don't have at the second year. Almost all of our parents do participate in parent-teacher conferences. The ones who don't, the schools and the teachers are very diligent about contacting and at least having a phone conversation. And that's typical. That's not a change. That's the way it's been all along.
Do you have an idea based on last year how many parents signed up for that or how many opted out newspaper instead?
Last year we, I think, made it very easy for people to request a paper copy. We had far more requests for paper copies than we anticipated, and when we talked to folks, it had nothing to do with access. It was, I'd like one to put on the refrigerator, and we commented that you can print it out from the portal. Oh no, but I like the one you sent me. So we got answers like that, and we got responses like, oh well, it was really easy, my kid brought it home.
Do you know about the percentage of, was it like 20%?
It varied from one building. I don't know, because honestly, I don't know how many families we have in each of our buildings. I know how many students we have, but in some cases, I don't know how many families we have. So if a family requested it that had 2 or 3 kids in the building, that's a hard number to gauge. It was high. It was much higher than anticipated. I would say probably 25%.
I like the paper too. You know, fold it, trifold, print your box, you know. And the school bus, is that, you don't have more on the sorry, I'm kind of confident. 5.02 advocacy committee, Stanton, if you would.
We were able to meet, I think it was last month. We're in the process of setting up meetings with Senator Carlucci, Assembly Members Jaffe and Bradnack, and a lot of back and forth with those, trying to find dates that work. But the goal of those meetings is just to see how we can work with them on our needs and talk to them about what our priorities are, what they got going on, how we can support it. And we hope that after those meetings, we'll get together a priority list and present it to the board with some ideas on how to move forward.
When is, I'm sorry, will be the timeline?
I'm hoping to have the meeting set within the next 3 weeks, and then we'll meet again in December at some point. So I don't know if it'll be the second meeting of December or the first meeting in January, we'll figure it out.
Will you do a date?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, strategic planning, if we could, 5.03.
All the subcommittees or focus committees met late in October or early November. And during this time, this is when the administrators, the teachers, or staff members, and parents, those formed the 3 focus committees. And during that initial meeting, there were introductions, the purpose of the committee work was discussed, and the goals, the end product that was desirable from the work of the subcommittees. They went through the SWOC process. For those of you that have been up, well, just came from the conference room upstairs, the butcher block paper was up on the tack board or up on the wall, and they went through the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and challenges. So they went through that process. Some of the committees or subcommittees did these in different ways, but they tried to stay within the committee's focus. Sometimes somebody would be really interested in a certain area, but it was not necessarily that committee's domain, so they put it in what they call a parking lot to come back to later on. And but each of the committees has a cross-representation of the elementaries and the middle and high school. And the feedback that I've gotten from administrators and from several parents is that the student participation has been fantastic. There's, I believe, 2 students in each of the subcommittees. Rachel is serving on one of the subcommittees, and but the students have been very enthusiastic. Is that fair to say, Rachel? Yeah. They're not afraid to share their opinions, as you might have ascertained from Rachel. But the kids have been really participating in this, and they give us a special way to look at this because of the lens that they see things. Since that first meeting, now the 3 administrators that are assigned to each of these subcommittees, one is a central office administrator, one is a secondary administrator, and one is an elementary administrator. Some questions were generated at each of these levels or in each of these subcommittees, and so the purpose or what work is being done prior to the next meeting is trying to obtain the information that has been requested so that when they report back, they're able to provide that information or perhaps clarification. They're also going through and they're looking at the different responses. Some people on the butcher block paper may have written something that's substantially similar to something else. So there's you know, the thought or the work of trying to combine the 2 thoughts together if that's really what they intended. And then drafting some questions to clarify the committee's feedback. So, so they're taking the information, but it may generate questions. Well, what did you exactly mean by this? So it's important to go back and get that clarity from the members of the committee. So each of the administrative team for each of the committees has been working on that. And then yesterday, the 3 committees got together and tried to, or discussed maybe certain problems or certain things that were coming up in their committee to see if there was a common way to address that, or if there's something in this person's parking lot that really belongs over here. They shared that information. And then taking a look at next steps. I think one of the three committees indicated that they may need some additional time. But they had a productive conversation as a group, and they broke up into their three subcommittees. I think this is breaking up. And then they came back together as a group. The next meeting of each of these committees will occur within the next 2 weeks. And in fact, I believe one of them met today.
Yeah.
Pardon me? The Interventions and Support Group. Is that yours too, Rachel?
Yes, I said yes.
Okay. Thank you. So all three of the subcommittees will meet in the next 2 weeks and share out the information and try to get some clarity as to what was intended by each of the comments under the 4 SWAC areas. Then after they collect that information, and part of these next 2 weeks is to start having the conversation about some of the goals. Are there 5 things? Are there 5 things being listed? And if so, then the majority of the people on the committee thinks that that's important, so they're going to try to have some conversations along the goals setting and what some of the objectives would look like under each of the goals. So those conversations will be taking place. Then they'll return and kind of aggregate all the information, provide feedback to the entire administrative team at an upcoming meeting, and then try to get some feedback from the administrators. The feedback that I've as we look at the timeline, I mentioned that there's one of the 3 committees thinks that they need some additional time. And because of that, and with the pending holiday next week, and as we get into the December season, it looks like a tentative timeline in terms of reporting out to the board, kind of the sharing of the end product. And I think we discussed this prior to the summer, was that it'll probably be in the January timeframe. That may be overly optimistic, at least with one of the committees, but it seems like that's the goal that we're shooting for. But again, with the holidays coming up, that may be problematic, but I think that's something that is achievable. But I have been impressed with the reports that I've received from each of the 3 committees or subcommittees in terms of the level of involvement by the parents and by the students and by the staff. We're getting perspectives from all different angles, which I think are very, very important. And if you were to listen to the dialogue that takes place, it's almost energizing. I can be in my office and you can hear laughter, you can hear the exchange of ideas taking place, and it's really humbling to hear that taking place. Steve, Lee, have I missed anything? Anything you want to add? No? Questions?
On the steering committee, when you initially presented to us who was on the steering committee, it was only Dr. Ivy and Mr. Lloyd. Have you added the other principals from the 3 other elementary schools to the steering committee?
Dr. Howard, what was the date on that?
This was June 2nd, 2015.
Yes, at that time we didn't have a Cherry Lane principal set,
Correct.
and so Angela, she was actually on the steering committee, I believe, but as a secondary administrator. Was she listed there, Dr. Howard?
Yes, as
Okay,
assistant
so
principal.
now
at the
she's
middle school.
shifted over to the, her role as the principal of Cherry Lane. So she's one of the elementary representatives. Mary DePercio is part of the steering committee. There hasn't really been a lot of work for the steering committee right now because the work took place to set up the process. And then Christine is part of the steering committee, but the steering committee as a group has not met recently. When all of the subcommittees are done and report back, then all of the administrators will be sitting there, all 5 of the elementary principals, the middle school principal, high school principal, and in fact, all of the administrators are going to be invited to that. But
So the committees will report to the steering committee, is that what I'm hearing you
yes, so
say?
that, yes, to assemble a report, to report out to the board.
And then I know we spoke a little bit off and on about trying to recruit other stakeholders in the community that have interests in the district. Have you been successful in recruiting other stakeholders that are not parents, not teachers, not staff, but perhaps someone who's retired who happens to live in the district?
We have 2 members of the committee that don't fall into any of those categories. They're a retiree, but a member of the community.
Okay, thank you very
And
much.
one may have been here earlier, I'm not sure he's still here. But yes.
Okay, thank you. Just a technical question, Dr. Adams. Did the steering committee have any role at the beginning for setting off the subcommittees to work? Did they have meetings at the beginning to set the tone or plan, or what was their role at the onset?
I'll let Steve respond on this one.
So the initial role of the steering committee has really been fundamentally about process more than it's been about content. If we go back to, I think, one of the more initial presentations around this, what happened was the entire administrative team engaged in that sort of SWOT process, looking at the school district as a whole, and then from there, developed the 3 different priority areas. And so the steering committee's role at that point was really about how do we want to go about engaging and recruiting stakeholders, and then how do we develop a process that'll help folks to feel comfortable, to be able to be candid with each other, and then what do we want the end product to look like. So it's really been about process for the steering committee. The content is driven by the teachers, the parents, and the students on the committee.
Did they physically meet at the beginning before the subcommittees were established?
Yes.
And they had one meeting more?
Challenging my memory now, I think the steering committee met twice before the priority area committee.
And in those meetings, was there representation of all the buildings?
There was representation from 5 of the 7 buildings. Then what happened was we shared the process with the entire 20-something member administrative team and gave everybody an opportunity through multiple settings to engage in what do you think about these SWOT areas, what do you think about the process. So it's been driven by those few people in terms of how to move it forward, but everybody's had an opportunity to give input.
And now the strategic committee is now going to take all that information and kind of, put it together to be presented. At that point, I believe we should have representation from every building, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? No. I do want to say that I just happened to be in Hillburn when the steering committee was meeting, whichever meeting it was, first or second. So I kind of snuck in, tried to be a fly on the wall a little bit, and was overly impressed by the participation of everybody in that room. It wasn't like it was, one person making all the statements, making all the comments, giving all the input. It was, everybody was commenting and free to be part of the discussion. So I was impressed by that process, the few minutes that I was there. Okay.
Sorry, one more thing.
I'm
Dr.
sorry,
Adams, can we please get a summary of your report?
Sure.
Can you send that out, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? Yes?
I'm sorry, you briefed through discussion before the report, so I just want to addressing my fellow board members, just to make a quick alert that the past requests for discussion items that I've requested in the past, that they still stand, and that the closing comments from the November 3rd meeting did not really respond to some of my concerns and requests in the past. So we need to develop ways, as I've been assured, to have either responses in a way that is appropriate as per the situation, or discussions where we collaborate together and have discussions where my fellow board members feel that the topic is worthy of such. So I just want to make sure that, what we did at the last meeting, yes, did not conclude those topics yet. I feel some of them are.
And we talked about that
open.
today.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for the
we'll
call.
follow up.
I appreciate that.
Yep,
So
sure.
we'll work together and make this happen. Thank you.
Okay, so, public participation on school district business, these are items not, in addition to the action items, but any school district business. I don't know if anybody came in or left, or for that matter, did not hear my speech before any public participation, so I'll try to do this quickly. At this time, Chair will open up the meeting to public participation. This portion of the meeting will last no longer than 30 minutes. Each speaker, if you could, approach the podium. State your name, address, school affiliation, represented by a group or organization. Please choose one spokesperson for said group or organization, as we do have a limited amount of time to have this part of the meeting. Please address your remarks to the president of the board. Again, this is a business meeting held in public. It's not necessarily a public meeting, so there is no conversation back and forth necessarily. But we, listen and hear what you're saying. And if you could leave, as I said before, some sort of information, contact information, or what have you, so I can at least direct where your, whatever your comment is, direct where it is more appropriate to go, if necessary, or for that matter, just respond from the board. And it seems that we have already one person up. Yield the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, my name is Kristen Connolly. I'm a Village of Airmont resident and a teacher at Suffolk High School. I have 3 sons who attend Cherry Lane, and a third who will enter kindergarten there in 2 years. Rockland Central School District is hands down the best district in Rockland County. I know I'm a bit biased, not only because I work for the district, but because I'm a graduate as well. So we are at a significant crossroads. In the past 5 years, my neighbors and I have seen an increase in the number of families moving in who do not send their children to public schools, as attested by the drop in attendance at Cherry Lane, as our new principal said before. Parents of my son's friends and my friends are worried but have remained steadfast because they know their children are receiving a quality education, as evidenced by the award-winning schools in our district. However, there has been a recent shift in mindset for many. They have watched as vital programs such as summer school, homework club, and Avid have been cut. They have watched support staff such as social workers and school psychologists have been reduced as well, when they are needed now more than ever in order to help our students navigate a world in which friends on social media turn to enemies with just 140 characters or less. Maybe there was a time when parents would shrug it off and say it doesn't affect my kid, but that time is come and gone, and what was once their reason to stay in our neighborhoods is giving them pause and could quite possibly become the reason they leave. It is our responsibility to make sure they don't. This can only be done by keeping open lines of communication between the board, the community that elected it, and the employees of this district. It can only be done by being as transparent as possible when making decisions that will affect our children's educational future. We have to remember that we are not producing widgets, as a professor of mine used to say, and that there can't be a bottom line when it comes to the needs of our students. There is a way to be fiscally responsible while providing for our children and those who play a role in their education, whether that be a custodian who ensures they have a safe and clean environment to learn in, a secretary who assists a new student in the school, a teacher's aide who makes sure a student is on task, or a teacher who utilizes all the resources available to him or her to ensure his students meet and exceed the rigorous standards our state has set. Henry Ford said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. Let's work together and keep Rockland Central great. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janet Malou. I'm a retired math teacher from the middle school with over 30 years of service to this community. I'm here tonight to speak about a cutting-edge program which can only be described as ahead of its time. 5 teachers of varying subject disciplines planned together and taught together in one classroom for 4 hours a day. Each day they crafted the following day's lessons plan as soon as class ended in order to be responsive to what the students wanted to learn. This program integrated math, technology, science, digital, and print literacy. The students weren't just engaged, they were excited. They came in at the start of this program as reluctant readers and writers, and they left with a new understanding and value for the skills they have developed. The district that housed this program was Ramapo Central School District. The program was called Summerscape, and I am one of the teachers who had the honor to work with 2 amazing teams. It was an opportunity to work closely with an incredibly talented group of teachers. I am here to remind you that there was a time when this district embraced thinking outside of the box in order to engage struggling learners during the summer months. There was a time when the first priority was the children, and the best programs inspire learning. There was a time when the expertise and professionalism of our teachers was respected and trusted. Detective Long, you may recall this program because we invited you to speak with our children. It might also interest you to know that one of our students from our last Summerscape program actually came back to the middle school and spoke to one of the teachers who had taught with me. He was so inspired by our course, which was steeped in forensic investigation, that he still wants to pursue a goal of becoming a police officer. It's rewarding to know that we made a difference in this young man's life. To me, that's what teaching is all about. Programs like Summerscape just don't occur anywhere. They happened here at Ramapo Central during a time when the district invested in summer school programs that were tailored to our neediest students. They happened during a time when administration trusted teachers to analyze the needs of students and deliver exciting, challenging experiences to instigate their growth. They happened here less than 10 years ago. It's a shame things have changed to this extent. Thank you.
I hope that doesn't count towards my 3 minutes. Good evening. My name is Michelle Woods. I teach at the high school. As Thanksgiving approaches, I find myself thinking of all that I'm grateful and thankful for. I am a proud graduate of Suffern Schools. I fondly remember attending Connor Elementary when it was still Cypress Road, and the gentle Mr. Connor walked the halls along with the students. Many teachers inspired and pushed me towards success, and today I'm lucky to watch as my colleagues provide the same inspiration for the students of Ramapo Central, and for that I am thankful. In today's world, teachers don't only teach the curriculum, but we also mentor and coach our youngsters. At the elementary level, teachers provide love and care to children who miss their parents, provide courage to shy children, and guidance to the courageous. They foster a lifelong love of reading and learning, all while creating a safe and loving environment. You're magical. At the middle and high school level, today's problems facing our youth are practically unimaginable. In a perfect world, educators would simply teach the curriculum. Instead, we're forced to deal with all of the ills of society, and still we succeed. And for that, I am grateful. I am thankful for the generosity of all the teachers and support staff of Ramapo Central who donate their time and money helping our students. The countless hours volunteering extra help, running clubs, dances, attending sporting events, and funding charities. I have more t-shirts for causes than I have closets. While we complete all of these activities with a generous heart, I can think of no other professional occupation where so many hours go unrecognized. Therefore, for all the time teachers and support staff generously donate, I am thankful. In my 18 years teaching at Suffern High, I have seen governors, administrators, and even board members With their acronyms, initiatives, and agendas come and go, but the teachers and support staff remain. Be certain, when community members boast about the awards, achievements, and greatness of Ramapo Central, it is the teachers and support staff they're complimenting. And for all of you, I am grateful.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Jefferson. I'm from the village of Sloatsburg. Growing up in North Rockland, Sloatsburg was nothing more to me than the end point of 7 Lakes. When my wife and I decided to move there, it easily could have just been a stopover before moving to a more permanent location. 18 years later, we are still here, and we could not have made a better decision. We immediately felt a great sense of community there, and the core of that sense was Sloatsburg School. To this day, my children love to speak about their time at Sloatsburg School. They have specifically detailed memories of not just major events, but mostly regular day-to-day classroom experiences. This is a testament to the teachers of Sloatsburg School who never treated their jobs as just a means for a paycheck. For years, these teachers have been setting the foundation for children to succeed at the middle school and the high school. My concern now, and the reason I am speaking for the first time ever at a board meeting, is the current feeling of dissension within the district. During a time of economic uncertainty, it is more important than ever that everyone works together to keep Sloatsburg School and all the Ramapo Central schools at the elite levels we are accustomed to. It is a time for increased cooperation and communication so that young families will want to move to Sloatsburg and stay in Sloatsburg like my family did. The main factor to encourage families to come and stay is for them to know that they have an extraordinary school that will set their children on a successful path. To me, Sloatsburg School has always been that extraordinary school, and I feel that everything needs to be done to ensure that it remains that way in the future. I would like to think that we all have the same goal, which is to give the children of Ramapo Central the best possible schools and the best opportunities to succeed. The district working together as a cohesive unit is the only way for this to happen. For me, my youngest son is in his last year at the high school, but I am hopeful for all the new families to the district that their children will be able to experience all the greatness that Ramapo Central has to offer, just as my children did. Anything else would be a shame. Thank you.
Good evening, it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see so many faces. My name is Maureen Ritter, and I just want to be certain that you understand that I'm speaking in my best capacity, and that's of a mother, so I was here at a board meeting several weeks ago, but due to the lengthy discussion on the policy manual, possibly the 3240 thing, I was unable to stay for public participation to say what I want. So tonight, I want to focus on pride and dignity. So first, the pride. So tonight, I'm standing before you as a parent and a survivor of the initial college application process. It is with pride in my daughter's school that I publicly thank Sarah Kern and the guidance department at Suffern High School for a wonderful presentation on the college application process that helped me take the first steps into this often daunting undertaking. Yes, the content of the meeting was helpful, but it was Mrs. Kern's delivery that was so reassuring and calming. Her first words were, "Parents, it's going to be okay." The program was highly organized, and the Q&A that followed was extremely helpful. Mrs. Kern's presentation was so timely that my daughter and I were able to get through the rest of the process with minimal amount of screaming. And subsequently, I let her apply early action to the University of Binghamton instead of my initial insistence on early admission to the University of Beijing. My family thanks you, Mrs. Kern, and the Suffern High School Guidance Department. words will be on dignity. I would like to address those who are assembled in this room about the recent, highly publicized, unproductive, divisive, condescending manner of interaction that is at stake of becoming standard procedure in our district. Communication is not about a power struggle. It is not about union versus board. It's about an issue of public perception and dignity. We are in the spotlight as a school district. That spotlight should remain on the accomplishment of our children and the opportunities we can give them. The spotlight should not be on the bickering and argumentation and systematic rejection of ideas that come from any member of this community and in this room. We need only to look toward East Ramapo to see what happens when a board becomes divided within itself or from the community. And now more than ever, it is imperative that everyone in this room, regardless of where they are sitting, make sure that exclusionary tactics and condescension are not part of the discourse, and that we work together to ensure the integrity of our district for the coming of years. Borrowing from DASA, the Dignity for All Students Act, we are charged with creating a safe and supportive environment free from discrimination, intimidation, taunting, harassment, and bullying on school property. Let's have those words ring true in this room. Let's collaborate, and let's make DASA, D-A-S-A, stand for Dignity for All Suffering Advocates. Thank you.
My name is Diane D'Ambrosio, and this is my 16th year teaching health education at the middle school. People that know me well know that other than my own children, the thing that I'm most proud of is the work that I do with my students. Having the opportunity to teach young people to value their inherent worth and to make healthy choices is a gift and a privilege that I continue to be grateful for. Until 2 years ago, being an avid teacher was one of the most rewarding experiences I've had at Ramapo Central. I was proud to share with others that Ramapo Central was a place that was invested in the success of every student. Not only is AVID backed by research that supports that it increases student success and college readiness, but I saw firsthand how it impacted middle school students that could have otherwise fallen through the cracks. Students that had the potential and the desire to excel, but either lacked the organizational skills or support, often maybe from home, were given a safe place to learn and thrive. I worked with kids who hoped to be the first generation in their families to attend college. I worked with kids whose parents spoke languages other than English. And I worked with kids who, regardless of how hard they tried on their own, they simply could not prevent their lockers and binders from becoming hazardous zones, much less utilizing Cornell notes and other powerful study strategies without some trained support. I was never informed why AVID was discontinued at the middle school. It seems obvious to me that a program that is proven to teach the very skills that we know that middle school students need most should be continued to be offered. I'm still incredibly proud of the work that my colleagues and I are doing for the students that we care so much about. I wish that I could still say that AVID was a part of that. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Narrow. I live in the village of Suffern, and my daughter attends Connor Elementary. I'm a teacher at Viola. I've been there for 12 years. Communication is a vital part of my job. It encompasses the 4 domains of teaching. The act of communication involves speaking, listening, observing, questioning, analyzing, and evaluating. Upon being an audience member of multiple board meetings, it is quite evident to me that communication is an area of needed improvement. The dialogue and tone between the board does not reflect the open lines of communication that teachers of Ramapo Central display on an everyday basis between students, parents, colleagues, and our building principals. It is my hope for my children and my students that the district can find a way in a respectful manner to communicate amongst themselves with the RTA and the community. Communication is essential to learning and achieving success. I just hope that we can move forward in the domain of communication to help our students. Thank you.
I'm a taxpayer, parent, and teacher at Cherry Lane Elementary School. And it is with a heavy heart that I stand before you tonight. I say that because I love this school district. I have loved Round Central ever since I walked through the doors of Mrs. Roberts' kindergarten class in 1975. I'm a proud graduate of Montebello Elementary School, Suffern Junior High School, and Suffern Senior High School. The love I had for my school experiences at Ramapo Central led me on my journey to become a teacher myself. I began my teaching career across the river in a school in which I was extremely happy. In fact, I had every expectation that I would retire from that district. But then in 1998, something changed. My daughter was born, and it was not long after that my husband and I knew we had to move back to Suffern. Both of us graduates of Ramapo Central Schools, my husband and I wanted our daughter to have the same amazing school experiences that we had. So I left my teaching job across the river, gave up my tenure, my seniority, my salary, and felt extremely grateful to be given the opportunity to actually work in the district that had inspired me my whole student life. Fast forward 15 years, and I'm dismayed and disappointed by what is happening in this district. I cannot understand why you are so unsupportive of the teachers who work here. I've heard that you think we are overpaid and underworked. I've heard that you are going to break us by dragging out contract negotiations and by not settling grievances. I've heard that you are threatening us with teacher layoffs. It is unbelievable to me that you would rather pay a lawyer at great taxpayer expense to negotiate a contract with us than to sit down in a room and have a real discussion. When I began working here, I felt I was part of a team working toward the common goal of educating for excellence. I'm wondering what happened to that team. We are still on board, but what happened to you? The only vision I see you having is breaking the teachers union, and I can't understand that. The teachers of this district are the heart and soul of the schools. Each year we make the group of students we work with our own. We celebrate them every day. We know when they are happy, when they are frustrated, when they're excited about finally figuring something out. We work hard to educate them, despite the recent difficulties related to the Common Core standards and state testing. We work before school, after school, at night, on weekends, and over vacations to be sure we are meeting the needs of our students. We are the ones who run the clubs, the sports teams, and the music and art groups that allow our children to shine in multiple ways. We are the ones who reach out to the community and develop relationships with our students and their families. I have heard time and time again that we are the reason, despite rising taxes and a change in demographics, why families are choosing to stay in this district. So I will end with this. Let's get this district back on track. Let's sit down in a room and work together. We need to be on the same team again. Our students deserve nothing less.
It's nice to see everybody, and I mean everybody. It's really nice to see everybody. My name is Pam Frederick, and I'm a Suffern resident. I also want to certainly proud with many of you on the board. The reason I'm here tonight, other than to listen, is to talk about the Lower Hudson Education Council. This is an organization that brings together superintendents and school board members from Rockland County, Putnam County, Westchester County, and Dutchess County. It's a small organization, but it's our key organization for regional advocacy. The dues are not a lot. The dues are not, $900 a year. And I know I've come to you before and asked Ramapo Central to please join. We are the one school in district in all of Rockland County that does not belong to this really tremendous advocacy organization headed by Judy Wiener. Just to give you a number, between Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland, 65 out of 77 school districts belong. When I was a board member, I wasn't aware of Lower Hudson Education Council, and now I am. I'm active, and I'm telling you, it is a tremendous resource as we all try to come together to advocate with our legislators. So I would like to just drop off some information and give it to Ms. Legislation over there to please consider joining the Lower Hudson Education Council. It will benefit all of us.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marie Kensky. I am currently an 8th grade co-teacher, special ed teacher in Second Middle School. I have been teaching for 15 years, and 11 of those years I've been teaching in middle school. I also come to you as a taxpayer and a parent as well. I am here to discuss the impact that I have experienced during the time I was involved with the amazing and very, very missed after-school program. I became part of this program for 6 years, 2 of those years in which I was the coordinator. The after-school program offered student attendance Monday to Thursday, 1 to 2 hours per day. Some students came voluntarily, while other students were encouraged by their teachers, their coaches, their guidance counselors, their parents. They attended the program to do their homework, work on projects, obtain computer access, and receive the extra help with whatever they needed. These students took charge and individual responsibility for their learning, putting in the effort to excel in their academics or to seek out the help that they needed in this program. Unfortunately, the after-school program was eliminated due to budget cuts, ending the tremendous positive impact of this program. Since the elimination of the highly beneficial program, students are no longer able to continue improving their study habits, their study skills, to increase their social collaboration, and to initiate self-advocacy for their academic success, which was instrumental in engendering a heightened self-esteem and confidence within themselves due to their own efforts. It is my biggest hope, along with many of my colleagues, that this program could be revisited and reconsidered. In bringing the after-school program back to our students and community, we can resume an extremely effective and much-needed support to the students, improving their academic achievements, increasing our students' learning, and most importantly, restoring their confidence and self-respect. Currently, those students who struggle with their homework, don't have computer access at home, or would like to work on group presentations have no interventions to support them. The absence of this program has affected many students who need to get that little extra time in the building to focus on their academic progress. Again, bringing this valuable program back would be a gift of kindness, opportunity, and much needed support. We need to help our children. We need to help and support them. They so very much deserve it.
Dr. Adams, Board President DeFalco, and other distinguished members of the Arapahoe Central School District. My name is Scott Kaplan, and I stand up here not only as a teacher at Suffolk High School, but also as a father of 2 children in this district. And I'm standing up here tonight because, as I was saying, I have 2 children in the district, 1 son in 2nd grade at Viola Elementary School and 1 son in 6th grade at the middle school. Their education is fantastic. As a tax-paying citizen of this district, I fully understand the economic times that we all face. With that said, it's now time for our district to stand up and take the lead in Rockland County over again. I didn't start out in Arapahoe Central School District. I actually started out up the road at the other school district on Viola Road. Now, the reason I applied to this school district is because of the fire and energy that I kept hearing from the community members and the district members who were working here at that time. Well, 11 years later, that fire is extinguishing. We have members of this community who have told me that they don't attend these meetings, so they feel their voices and concerns are not taken into account and listened to when they approach this podium. Furthermore, we have teachers who are expressing concerns about professional development, about technology, and other issues that, again, are going to no avail. The actions that are occurring for our public to witness are fighting amongst yourselves and a lack of listening, and also each of you calling out each other. That's not what we need here for democracy. The word democracy is something that we celebrate in our classroom every day, in which we stress the importance of its meaning for by the people and all the people. I, as one who teaches this every day in AP Government and Politics, cannot see this being practiced at these meetings. Why are we being called out? why are all of you calling each other out? Or why are certain board members being called out? We should be listening to each other, having constructive dialogue. Second, let me talk about something that concerns me tremendously as a father, the district's transportation. Again, as I said, my son is a second grader at Viola Elementary School. For those of you that don't know, Viola is a late school. That means they dismiss at 3:35. While a bit late is accepted because that's the time that's been set. As many of you who are sitting here as parents, who are listening to me, would you accept having your son get off the bus at 4:20 every day when you live 6 minutes from the school? I don't think so. When my wife and I have contacted the transportation department, we've either not received a phone call back after leaving numerous messages, or been told it's because of the bridge. Well, the bridge has now been fixed, and he's still getting off the bus at 4:20 every single day. Now, to me again, this is unacceptable as a father. Now I'm going to be told that I don't understand transportation and routing. Again, let me tell you that's untrue. As an assistant director of a prominent day camp in the county and the Northeast that travels all over Rockland, New Jersey, and to New York City, I'm involved with 84 minibuses with approximately 15 children in each bus every day for twice a day. There's never a time when someone is not available to field the concerns of parents until every child has been safely returned to their homes. I don't understand how we can have not somebody in our transportation department doing this. If we don't make changes right now and openness doesn't occur, we're headed down the path where I came from years ago. This will force those, like myself, or even others who are known jokingly as the refugees, to think about jumping ship. This is not what we want for the education of our students. I moved here for many reasons, and one of them was a great reputation of the district. I'm beginning to see people, as I said, leave who could be vibrant members of our district because of the path that we're currently on. I'm imploring you to start to listen to the concerns of everyone and work together. Otherwise, there'll be no one expressing their concerns, and it'll be a much larger problem.
Okay, the 30 minutes is up, so I'm going to, anybody else that wants to speak? Okay, just as a courtesy now. Okay, so at this time then I will close the public participation portion of the meeting. I do want to thank all those who did speak. We appreciate your comments, we respect the nature of your comments, and your concerns. I know nobody left their email address. I could probably find it. Next, we have superintendent's comments.
I have no comments.
Okay, no comments, so now we have adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Ricky.